Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Rebecca, and I am a trainer and assessor at Peak Training under the wonderful umbrella of the New South Wales Family Daycare Association. And today I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing Kristy. I say hi, Kristy. Kristy, would you like to tell us about yourself and just get us into the mix of everything so we can start this wonderful chat that we have today?
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Kristy and I'm a family daycare coordinator and the educational leader at Northern Rivers Family Daycare. And I've been in the coordinator role since February 2012 and in the educational leader role just for the last 12 months. Prior to that, I was an educator myself and I've also worked in several long daycare settings. So I've been in the early childhood industry since about 1998.
Wow. You've been through the whole evolution and the change and the this way and that way, which is really exciting. So you've got a lot of extensive experience and you've seen it from what it was to what it is now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's been lots of changes.
You are a very big advocate in terms of well-being. Is that right?
Definitely, yes. It's very important to me and to our service as well.
Amazing. So I want to start off with a question that I think will just open up the gates and just then we're going to start into the more of the deeper conversations into well-being. But my first question is, from your perspective, does well-being, how and what does well-being for young children actually look like every day?
I think with young children, well-being looks like children that feel safe and secure, and by feeling that, they're displaying that they feel safe and comfortable in services. And I think when they're regulated and they have good routines, you're able to see that their well-being needs are being met, whether that's their physical, social, emotional, spiritual needs. And when children are confident to use their own voices and show curiosity, to me, that shows that their well-being is being met.
That's so nice. So being able to have their needs met and feeling that comfortability. So why do you believe well-being is such a critical foundation for children's learning and development?
If children's well-being and their needs are being met, they're more likely to succeed. They're more likely to learn in their overall development, because a good sense of well-being means that we are able to function as humans, and it's the same for children as well. And when they have good well-being and they're regulated, they're going to learn so much more and take in so much more of what's happening around them, and also just enjoy friendships and relationships with the adults in there that are caring for them and their friends. So I think if they have all those needs met, it just helps their development. It's like critical to their development. If those needs and that well-being's not being met, then their development's going to be impacted.
Thank you. It's like, I mean, it's the same as us, isn't it? We have these needs that need to be met, and we need to practice well-being every day to be able to function properly and move and, make big decisions. And I think what happens is people sometimes underestimate that that is such an critical part for a child's development as well. If we had well-being imprinted in us from such an early age, imagine the skills and the decisions and the calmness and the mindfulness that we would have every day naturally as an adult.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that well-being is more important than whether they know their colors or can write their name. It's got to come first, because the rest will follow if their well-being's being met and they have good personal well-being.
That's absolutely correct. It's the proper foundation of it. And then, as you said, things just start to fall into place, and then learning comes naturally. They're excited about their learning. They don't feel like they're pressured in doing something. So that's lovely. Thank you.
Exactly.
So in terms of if a child is struggling, so let's just say that what are the early signs to recognize if a child is actually struggling with their well-being or emotional regulation?
Yeah, so obviously the first one is their emotional regulation, and they may be unable to regulate their emotions. So that's often a key. They might have big reactions. and big emotions, or they might be really clingy and overly emotional or withdrawn. They may lash out at others or at their adults. And they may even have changes in their sleeping and eating habits as well. So some of those are kind of signs that something's not right, and it might not always be to do with their well-being, but it also might be an indicator that something more is happening.
Yeah. Can you, Kristy, do you want to maybe, if you can, off the top of your head, give me an example if you've had a child in your care that has been struggling with their well-being, and what was it? How did you and your team support that child and to deliver their needs and to be able to let them grow and move forward?
That's a really good question. And I guess over the years, there's been so many different like situations that have arose where children have, yeah, shown those kind of indicators. And I think one comes to memory where there was just a lot of upheaval in the family. So there was parents divorcing and two children attending two homes and that kind of thing. And because the parents were really open with us about it, we were able to support the child through that transition. But that doesn't always happen. Sometimes families are a bit closed off and not happy to share that. So we were really lucky that they did. And we were able to support that child by having open discussions and reading books about two homes and that kind of thing. And because the family were on board and we were on board, it didn't probably last as long as we thought it would with this little one, because I think the key was having everyone being so consistent to help and support this child. So I think that's, yeah, one that stands out the most.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So what would you say, how can we implement strategies in our daily practices for all educators out there, whether you're a trainee, whether you are a director or you're an educator assistant, how can we as educators with such big responsibilities and such a non-stop on-the-go job, how do we just pause and take that moment to implement the well-being for us and the children?
I think we're really good at doing that as educators anyway, because we do often, in no matter what service you're in, have a pretty good, consistent and predictable routine, which helps children feel safe. And when children feel safe, they, their well-being is being cared for. But it's also looking at transition times and assisting children through transition times. And it's really hard sometimes, but trying to have a calm environment. And it doesn't always mean calm when it comes to the children, because sometimes they're loud and excited and having fun, but it could be just the furnishings that you have and how much you have on your walls, that kind of thing, that definitely helps. And then having emotionally regulated educators is really important, and it is a really tough job, and our emotions are being torn in all different directions all day. But if we work on ourselves and our own emotional regulation, that rubs off on the children as well. So that is one way. And I think if you have a good team around you, it's trickier in family daycare because often you're the only educator. So you don't always have a team around you. But that's when you can lean on your coordinator or the service. But I think for people in other services where there's multiple staff, it is a bit easier, because if you're not having the best day, feeling the best yourself, you can lean on others for that help. But I think definitely in family daycare, it's really important because children do feel their educators' emotions. And I think it's also about teaching children about emotions as well, because if they are learning about emotions and what they are and how they feel, they're able to identify that themselves and express that as they get older. I think that is really important. And I think one of the biggest things with children and well-being in a practical sense and a good strategy is just letting them have time to play uninterrupted and sometimes unscheduled. I think that's, yeah, really, really important.
Because I like to think of that as, so for example, we adults, we're engaging in a hobby. We're having a really good time. We're really in the zone. We're collaborating with a friend, let's just say. And then all of a sudden, someone just comes and says, all right, finish up now, let's go. as for an adult, it just sort of shifts you, and it might give you a bit of frustration. It might, cut off the good energy that you were, that you had and you were having through that hobby. But whereas if we were given a warning, or like, hey, we're gonna start packing up around 5-10 minutes, and then we're gonna pop to the car and go where we need to go. That's more of a leeway of preparing myself mentally to stop what I'm doing and to get ready, and just, that gives me that window and that time. And then I feel with children in early childhood and family daycare, we sometimes, like, because we do have those routines, we just want to make sure that we're on time and we're ready to go, and it's really important. But we forget that it's okay if we go over a bit of time. It's okay if you let them finish that drawing. It's okay if they're really invested with an activity. Let's bring in the food, let's let them play, and let's see how it goes, and let's naturally transition them to the next stage.
100%. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's really important for children, and it's not necessarily I don't think it's good for them to be rushed all the time and to overschedule them with our programming and planning, just that flexibility.
Yeah.
Yes. And then it does help them in the long run, because they don't feel rushed and pushed and stressed, because now it's lunchtime and I've got to pack up now. And if there's that little bit of leeway, and often it's only a matter of 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, it's not 2 hours of leeway. It's a short time that you might be going, "Oh, if we're 10 minutes late, we're 10 minutes late." So
exactly. I just want to circle back to one of the points that you made in that wonderful response you had given, the environment, in terms of how, having a calm environment. And that doesn't necessarily mean, just like all the kids are quiet, but you had mentioned about the furnishing, the positionings of the environment, the room, how many displays you have on the walls, things like that. I just wanted to draw your attention to, it just brought up something really interesting with me. When I used to do the openings in an early childhood service, I would start the morning and have the setup ready, everything was done. But I would start with this like calming acoustic morning music, as we say. And I had felt that when the children and the parents had came in, it completely shifted. They shifted their energy, and they came into the classroom. We also had a diffuser that had like a natural peppermint or oil scents as well. So they're coming in first thing in the morning, they're dropping off their cute children, they're smelling this beautiful oil of scents of lemongrass or peppermint. And then they've got this calming, relaxing music. So I could actually see the parents and the children just take a beat and go, this is good, this is safe, we feel good, all good, we're going to have a good day today. So that was a huge part of what I personally found, and I know other educators out there might feel too, that if you do change that environment up a little bit and you add those little details in, it makes such a massive difference.
exactly. It's always like the little touches sometimes. It doesn't have to be that you switch everything around completely. It can be just adding in that bit of music or that essential oil, definitely. And I think what you said too about the parents, often mornings are busy and parents are rushing to get to childcare or family daycare and dropping the children off, and the children pick up on that.
Yeah.
So I think it's really special if not only do the children walk in and feel calm, but the parents do as well. So it helps everyone get off on a good day.
Yeah, I agree completely. So you mentioned before about educators, our well-being, and how it reflects on the children, and how the children can pick up our energy, our emotions. So how does an educator's own well-being influence the children in that way? So can you give me maybe some examples, or like just explain how important it is for us as educators to really take care of ourselves for the children, for well-being?
Yeah, well, I think just from my observations over the years, children just have some kind of innate attunement to their caregivers, whether that be educators or parents. And they're really good at picking up on our vibes, whether we're intentional or not, on how we're feeling. They just seem to be really in tune. And obviously, we're going to have moments of stress and overwhelm as educators. That is like just a given.
Yeah.
But I think what matters is how we manage that and address that. And I think if adults are regulated, it does flow on to the children to being regulated. And I think it comes down to educators sometimes, when you're in that moment of feeling really stressed or overwhelmed, just sitting down and being with the children in the present moment, because often our mind's racing, but children live in the present. They don't live like we do, thinking about the next thing. And sometimes, honestly, just sitting down with the children for 5 minutes and being present with them, they enjoy it. And then it can kind of help regulate us again. So I think, yeah, that's really important to take those moments, especially in family daycare, because you don't always get a lunch break or even a toilet break sometimes because you're on your own. But you can take micro moments when you're feeling a little bit unregulated or stressed or overwhelmed to help bring yourself back into a more regulated state, if that makes sense. So it can be sitting with the children. One thing we used to do, and this was years ago, and it was back when I was in a centre, and we had 20 preschoolers, but it would work beautifully in family daycare, as the afternoons used to be really hectic and we all found we were getting stressed and anxious and the children were heightened. We honestly used to put on one song, and I remember the song was like Hands by Jewel. It was really random, but we put it on and all the children learnt they had to lay down and look at the ceiling for that song. And then we would get up and put our sunscreen on and go outside. And they were preschoolers, so it was an older group, but they learnt, and indirectly we were teaching them a little bit of mindfulness and relaxation. So there's nothing to say you can't do that with the children. And it might not even be a song, it might be a half a song or something, but there's always a way you can help regulate yourself, which then helps regulate the children.
I love that. That is so wonderful. So you have played a song, and then over time the children had learned that, oh, this is like a moment to just take a beat and gather our thoughts and then get up and let's transition to the next step again. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's say a service wants to really shed light on their children's well-being. So let's just take as an example a service that's really good at, let's say programming and their ratios, and they're making sure that they're staying on top of things and everything's going really good, but we're really lacking in the well-being and mindfulness section of our service and our daycare. So where can a service start, would you say? Where can they start with this journey?
So I think we're really good as, like most of us have beautiful intentions of wanting to care for the children's well-being, and we do it really, really well. And I think sometimes when people think well-being, they think yoga and meditation and mindfulness. But sometimes I think it's also having a deeper look at what the children are experiencing in their emotions. So often when we're doing observations and we're watching the children, we're thinking, what hand are they using? What grip are they using? Do they know their colours? But we often don't take a deeper look into what the children are experiencing and what they might be feeling throughout the day. And I think that is one way we can incorporate it, because if we're looking at children's feelings and emotions and what they're experiencing, we kind of see it on a different level. We're not just seeing learning, we're seeing actually their well-being. And I think putting that visible in documentation as well. So some of our observations can be about things that happen with children, their feelings and their emotions, or even their experiences. Sometimes children will come up and say, I really liked that we did that today. And it's thinking about it on a deeper level, going, well, I wonder why they liked it, and just looking that little bit further. Yeah, I think that's probably somewhere where services could start, is just having more of a focus on the programming and the planning, but in a well-being sense.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. And how can we involve our families and the community? So obviously our attention and all of our energy, we want to make sure the children are healthy and happy and safe, but we do also take care of the families and within our community. So how do we jump on board and incorporate that family and community into this well-being and mindfulness part of our service?
I think it's really getting to know your families and spending a lot of time getting to know them, which in family daycare we do really, really well, because it's such a smaller and more intimate setting. But I think it's through open discussions with your families, that's where you're going to be able to involve them the most. And it's talking about, the comfort items that children have, how they've been feeling, what their emotions are like with the family. Sometimes we focus on, did they sleep well? What have they had to eat this morning? But it might be like, have you had a good morning? Has everyone been feeling happy? Or was, talking about emotions a little bit more, and inviting parents to talk to us about changes at home and things that are happening, because sometimes families don't know how much they should share or whether they should share. So giving that invitation to families about, if you share with us, it actually helps us help your child and your family and support you all better. And I think sometimes with families too, using like lots of strength-based language and talking about the positives as much as we talk about the negatives, because sometimes when there's things going on with behavior, we can often focus on the negatives, but there are often a lot of strengths and positives that we can focus on as well. And I think it's also talking to families about well-being in general and giving them some resources about well-being in children. It doesn't have to be all the time, but if you come across something about well-being, sharing it with the families. And also with the community aspect, it could be like visiting an aged care home. Because sometimes it's talking about cheering up the elderly people, and it's also teaching the children empathy and care and love, and you're out in the community. Or another thing that I've had an educator do previously too is charity work, where they've actually like brought in a big hamper and families have contributed to donating to a charity, and like we all feel good doing something nice. So sometimes it's those little things that indirectly involve well-being, if that makes sense.
That's wonderful. And thinking outside of the box, because like you said, people usually think yoga, meditation, but really it's about feeling good, however that looks. And the nursing home and giving back to the community is an act of kindness, and that genuinely fills your soul with just so much love and just, oh, I want to do this more. I feel so good. I'm so happy. And that reflection with the children just sets themselves up to just be so confident and so strong within themselves. I love that.
Definitely. It's always the smallest things. Like our service was flooded in the big 2022 flood, and a lot of services sent us cards that the children had made and just things that they'd said. And it was just the littlest act of service, but the children enjoyed doing that to cheer people up, and we enjoyed receiving it because it cheered us up. So yeah, well-being is more than just yoga. It can be as simple as a card or a gift to a charity or visiting an aged care home. Really simple stuff.
Very simple, and sometimes it's too simple that people forget how simple it can be,
Yeah.
And I think because we live in such a rushed, busy, quick, fast-paced, space, we forget to just and do tiny little things that can actually bring so much more benefit and joy, not just to ourselves, but to everybody around us.
Exactly. And I think the only other thing I forgot to say, and it just came to my mind, is just honoring culture and family values as well, because if you're celebrating families and their family culture, no matter what that is, they feel valued. And then when you feel valued, your well-being is going to be met. You're going to feel good. So that was just another thought that came to my mind.
That's beautiful. Thank you. It's so nice. It's beautiful. So what are some realistic strategies that you have used or your previous, team have collaborated in to actually help children self-regulate over time?
I think often with children, when they're not regulated, they're actually seeking more care. So I think staying close to them when they're upset, they don't all want you to, but you can be within a close distance and reassure them that you're there. And I think remaining calm yourself and using a calm voice, because if we get heightened, it's just going to heighten them. And obviously teaching them about emotions. I think we need to start that from a really young age. They don't always understand straight away, but the more we do something, the more people understand. And validating their feelings is really important, because often something that's little to us is a big deal to a little person. Yeah. So I think validating their feelings, because we all want our feelings to be validated as adults as much as we are as children. And I think just being mindful of what we're doing. So if we're role modeling calmness and emotional regulation, they do watch that. And I think that's probably one of the key strategies is even if you're not feeling calm, but faking it till you make it if you have to.
Yeah.
And there's also other physical things you can do, like teaching children to take deep breaths, giving them squeezy balls that they can use, dancing your sillies out. Like sometimes it can be as simple as putting on music and being silly, that kind of thing. Or it can be recognizing when a child's overwhelmed and they just need some time alone and creating like a little calm space for them. So once you know the children really well, you kind of know who needs calmness, who might need to shake and dance and move around. So it's, definitely getting to know the children and working what works best for them. And sometimes that's trial and error too.
Oh, thank you. No, that's wonderful strategies. And I really liked the, some basic breathing techniques with the children. I used to do this one that we would pick a flower from the floor. We would smell the flower with our nose and blow out the candle with our lips. And I do that myself sometimes because it is a deep breathing exercise. It does calm your nervous system, and it's such a wonderful way to blend the children to start understanding breathing through your nose and out of your mouth, what it can do to regulate yourself and calm yourself. So that's really a wonderful ways to do that. And I love doing strategies like that. I think it's fabulous. So thank you for sharing. I do have one last question left. And this is just to wrap up this wonderful time that you've shared with us today and all these excellent information and strategies and experiences that you've been through. If you could give one piece of advice to educators about supporting children's well-being, what would it be? One piece of advice.
One piece would definitely, I've got two. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's go.
I think the best way you can support children's wellbeing is to look after yourself first and foremost as an educator, because we are caregivers. And like they do on planes, you put your emergency equipment on everyone else before yourself, before you do everyone else. I think it's the same. If you look after yourself first, you're better to look after other children. And I think the other thing is always prioritize your relationship with the children before the behavior. Like your relationship with the child is more important than what behavior they're doing at that time, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So actually, just caring for them first and dealing with the behavior after.
Because that can roll over each other. We can have a relationship with the child, and if their behavior is saying otherwise, we can ourselves get really flustered and frustrated, and we're trying to help them. But having that relationship and understanding, I am close with this child. We've built this relationship. They trust me. I trust them.
Exactly. And I think just caring for them before, like they might be having a tantrum or hitting somebody, but giving them that care and that empathy to start with, then you can deal with what's happening after. I think sometimes we rush to stop the behavior, but we should be prioritizing that relationship with the child, because once we have that and they feel safe and secure, a lot of the behavior things will stop or ease back because our relationship's really good and they're feeling better within themselves. So I think that's, my two pieces of advice.
Thank you. Kristy, you are such a blessing to have today. It was so wonderful to share this experience with you, and so thank you very much.
Thanks, Rebecca. It was an honour to be here and invited to do this.
Thank you, Kristy. You have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.